Well, good morning to you and welcome to another edition of Expert Alert. I'm your host, Jim Tabor. This is where we bring in experts from around the Gulf Coast and different businesses and let them share their knowledge with you, any questions you might have regarding their expertise. Well, today we have with us Martin Kimbrell, who's the outside sales representative for OS Lumber over in Ocean Springs on Government Street. Good to have you on the show.
Good to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Well, thank you very much. Give us a little bit of background about yourself, Martin, and how long you've been in this business.
I've been with Ocean Springs Lumber for a little over 15 years now. Began in the warehouse as a truck driver, moved my way inside and up to what we're doing. I've been doing outside sales for about 13 years. Wonderful company, wonderful experience, and learning something every day.
Good. Well, one of your expertise is what we call is framing, and one of the things that we've been talking about here over the past couple of months with OS Lumber are things that you need to know, and we'll have some more as we go along regarding. Like last time we had talked about windows. We're going to talk about framing this time, because if you're in the market to build a house from the ground up, these are some very important things that you need to know. So let's talk a little bit about framing. And people see houses that are framed up, and it's just a lot more than just throwing up a bunch of wood. So first off, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. It is way more intense than just bringing wood, having wood there. It all starts at the beginning with the blueprints. Having a good, accurate set of blueprints allows us, as your supplier, to get you an accurate material count and help you with your budgeting along the way to help things move smoother along. From the very beginning, the blueprint stage and the original material takeoff is the most important step to get everything started.
Now, do you find that more people are the home buyers are working more closely with the contractors, or they pretty much leave it up to the contractors to get the right equipment materials?
It varies from customer to customer. A lot of times the contractor handles his scheduling. A lot of times we do a lot of individual work with homeowners. So we help them to schedule their projects and kind of lead them along the way to ensure that their building goes smoothly and in a timely manner, because time is money, and scheduling is one of the most important parts of our job, the accuracy of our material takeoffs and the scheduling for our customers to keep them on track, on budget, and in a timely manner, having everything done.
Well, talk about materials, if you would.
So, especially in the COVID era that we're in, materials are more difficult to get than we've had in the past. Longer lead times through manufacturing issues, trucking issues, you name it. It's the scheduling of the material is a vital part of it at this point in time. We stock a vast amount of material, and 90% of what we have is on the ground, but there are specialty items that are more difficult to come by.
Right.
Longer lead times and issues like that we try to prepare ahead for to keep everything moving at the right time.
And I imagine some of those being doors and windows, if they're going to look at blueprints, they don't need to wait to order those, because you need to have those ready to go whenever that framework is up and time to place them in.
Absolutely. One of the key things is when people begin their foundation, that's when I expect them and need them to have made decisions as far as their windows and doors and the millwork side, because things that used to take 2 weeks to get take 6 weeks to get.
Right.
And you can't be waiting on your windows and your doors. It costs you money, and it delays the length of the build, just to bad times for everyone.
Let's talk about codes. A lot of people, you're always hearing about having to follow, the contractors having to follow codes. And I'm sure there are a standard set of codes that they have to follow, but I'm sure there are some that vary also from city to city, county to county. What kind of codes do they have to adhere to?
Most everything follows the International Building Code, but each municipality has their own interpretations, and some things you have to go above and beyond. Being in coastal counties, we have to meet different wind ratings. We have different standards we have to build to versus places away from the coastlines. So one of the services we provide is us trying to stay knowledgeable to the local codes so we can make sure that everything adheres to the codes, because going back and having to redo things is costing everybody money and time. That's one of the things we pride ourselves on, is trying to be up to date on the local codes so we can keep our customers on track, as far as doing that and adhering to the codes. And if they have questions, we can answer the questions most of the time, or refer them back to the building inspector if it's something that we don't know the exact answer on.
Now, we were talking earlier before we came on the air. One of the things we talked about was windows. Even windows have codes whenever you put a window in a frame.
Absolutely. Window sizes, the design pressure ratings, the minimum design pressure ratings and wind ratings on the coastal counties, and minimum sizes for bedrooms, things like that. That's something that we can look at the blueprints, and if we see a window in a bedroom that's too small, we'll advise them, hey, we need to make this bigger. It's not going to pass code, because we don't want to put a window in a house and everything get framed up and the code inspector says, this isn't going to work, you got to tear it out, you got to redo it. So that's one of the things that we try to look from the blueprint stage when I first get your blueprints, to make sure that everything's going to meet code as it's drawn, because there are plans available online that are drawn in the Midwest or something that adhere to totally different codes than we have to adhere to. So that's something that we try to stay on top of to manage it from the very beginning.
And that was one of the things I was going to ask you about. People are always going online saying, oh, I love that house. Let's find out and even though the house was built in Montana, I love that house. I want to build it out in the country down here or whatever. But again, their codes up there are going to be different than what they are down here when it comes to so many different things in the house. Like I said, the window sizes, and the reason for that is, there's a fire or something, they got to be able to get out of the window.
Absolutely. Ingress, egress is a big issue, as well as the ratings. And you can see a plan for a beautiful house that a lot of times can't necessarily be built in this area because they don't have to adhere to the codes that we do.
Right.
To me, it's vital working with a local architect or draftsman, because they do understand the codes. A lot of times you have to have structural engineers involved, and that's one of those things that it's best to me to have somebody local, or if you buy a set of plans, there are local architects and draftsmen that will work with you to make the changes necessary to build it to the codes.
And I'm sure there are different codes too. The houses that are built elevated, that are close to the beach. I mean, after Katrina, all those things changed for as far as elevations for construction.
Absolutely. Knowledge of the base flood elevations, different floor heights to catch insurance breaks for the customer, that they can meet the minimum elevation, but they might be able to catch an insurance break by going a foot higher or 2 feet higher. That's one of the things that we try to keep an eye on, and especially dealing with individual homeowners, if we can advise them for just small steps to help save them money, that's one of the services that we want to provide. And just to advise, while we're not builders by any means, we have done enough business and are familiar enough with the coast that we can advise on things that'll help them and benefit them in the long run.
And I'm sure the pilings and everything for those raised houses have to be, meet code, and have to be a particular type of material to withstand, tide surge.
Absolutely. So, the treatment levels for the pilings, the foundation, the foundations required to meet the codes to allow the big timbers and the block foundations to do what they're supposed to do is one of those things that, through the ability since Katrina, we've all learned better ways to do things, and working on the raised houses and ensuring everything meets code, and the strapping and the timbers, the beams, and the entire floor systems is something we didn't have to worry about before, that now is vital to the house being sturdy, not settling, things like that. It's just little things like that we've learned that we can help the customer with.
And I'm sure there's different codes for residential and commercial.
Absolutely. In commercial, we do a fair amount of light commercial work. We don't do a whole lot of big commercial work, but the codes for commercial buildings in Biloxi, Gulfport, Ocean Springs, they are held to a higher standard than a residential. So that's something that, you know, we have good relationships with a lot of inspectors. So if we have questions, I can call the inspector in Ocean Springs or Biloxi or D'Iberville. And if I have a question when I'm working to get a material list together, it'll help me. They're more than willing to help us make sure that we're sending our customer in the right direction from the very beginning.
Well, I appreciate you coming in here today and sharing all this great information, the things that I didn't know. And I studied 3 years of architectural drafting in high school, and I always wanted to design. I had once designed my own house to build, but I'd never realized there was so much that went into building the thing once you got those blueprints done.
When you get ready to do that, come see me and we'll take care of you, Jim.
I will do it.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you, sir. Good
Yes,
to see
sir.
you. Martin
Thank you.
Kimbrell, outside sales representative for OS Lumber. Thank you for being here with us today on Expert Alert. We'll be back again next Tuesday at 10 o'clock with another edition of Expert Alert.
If you have a question for any of our experts, go to WLOX.com and click on Expert Alert. For a list of any of our upcoming experts, go to WLOX.com and click on Expert Alert.